I recently had the good fortune to visit Tory Island off the coast of Donegal. It was the first time I visited Tory, and it's a place that I had sort of been familiar with just through the myths of Balor and the magical cow, and it being the stronghold of the Fomorians. In reality, it's quite a beautiful place, but it's also quite a rugged and isolated place. I mean, it's located only about 9 miles off the coast, but it's the northwest coast and it's out in the Atlantic. In the summer, I'm sure, I was out there recently approaching midsummer. It's a beautiful place, but in the winter I can imagine it's quite a different situation. I'm just going to read a couple of passages from this lovely book, Stories from Tory Island, and that's by Dorothy Harrison Thurman, who started visiting Tory in the early 1980s and who ended up collecting an awful lot of folklore from the residents and recording it. And this book is, I suppose, a product of that dedication to the island and its people. She seems to have fallen in love with it. To be honest with you, it's not difficult to see why. I don't think I'd like to live there, but certainly I enjoyed my time there and I would love to go back. Tory Island lies 9 miles out in the North Atlantic off Bloody Foreland on the northwest coast of County Donegal. On a grey day, it is the colour of charcoal against the grey sky. When the sun is bright and the sea a deep blue, it is sometimes opalescent, sometimes shadowed in sapphire and golden brown. It appears always as a castellated mirage on the horizon. Over the years, Tory has been described as the most isolated, the most desolate, the most windswept of any of the Irish islands. And I can tell you that there is a ring of truth to that for me, because the day we sailed out on the ferry, the sea was extremely calm and the island just looked like an oasis in the deep. And only 5 days later on the return trip, there were 4 and 5 metre swells, and it was a different story altogether. I wanted to just recount a little bit about how Balor brought the magic cow to Tory. My interest in this is twofold. First of all, I'm interested in mythology in general, but second, that this is a very similar story to a story told here at the entrance to the Boyne Valley along the coast here, the east coast. Far removed from Tory Island, there's a very similar story told. But I'll tell you the Tory version from Dorothy's book. Beyond Sculch na Vorashan, and a little farther to the east, is Greenport, Porcine Glas, which, as it faces north, is of no use as shelter for boats in the winter months. Balor, the legendary Fomorian pirate and ruler of Tory in ancient times, landed in this small cove after stealing the magic cow from Gawain, the smith who had his forge on the mainland at Drumnatinny. This white milch cow, called Glas Gaibhlinn, was, according to Reverend J. McDevitt in the Donegal Highlands, Dublin, 1866, so lactiferous as to be greatly coveted by the neighbours, and the smith seldom let go of her halter by day, and was careful to tie her securely by night. Balor desired her greatly, and one day, assuming the guise of a red-haired little boy, he tricked Gawain into letting him hold her halter while the smith went into the forge to settle an argument. I love these stories. As soon as the smith was out of sight, Balor ran off with the cow, and after stopping for a short rest on the nearby island of Inishbofin, which is Inishbofin, the island of the White Cow, you remember all of those connections with the Boyne Valley and the Bowfin River, came to Greenport and dragged his prize up the beach by the tail. Why was this famous cow called Glas, which means green or grey, when she was, from all accounts, white? The answer, perhaps, is in a book called Mearing Stones, Leaves from My Notebook on Tramp in Donegal by Joseph Campbell, Dublin, 1911. Not to be confused with the famous mythology author Joseph Campbell. On one of his walks, Campbell noticed an exceptionally green field and asked the farmer if there was water near it. The man replied that a stream did run through it, but that the Glas Gaibhlinn also slept there. He explained further, "It's a magic cow the old people will tell you of," says he, "that could never be milked at one milking, or at 7 milkings for that," says he. "Any field that's greener than another field, or any bit of land that's richer than another bit, they say Glas Gaibhlinn sleeps in it," says he. It's a freak, but it's true. The story told here is that Balor was walking the Glas Gaibhlinn and her calf down the Irish coast from Ulster along the coastline. And it says that everything was going fine until they crossed the mouth of the River Boyne. And he said that the Glas Gaibhlinn looked back to see where her calf was and could immediately see that they were far from home and obviously they were being led away. So the cow let out a mighty scream, to which Balor was said to have opened his malignant eye. So Balor is known under various names: sobriquets, Balor of the evil blows, Balor of the evil eye. And he had this huge single eye with a huge eyelid that it took several men to lift. And when his eye was lifted, it scorched everything. And there's stories which talk about seven degrees of burning, from 7 sort of steps of heat, according to how strong Balor's gaze was. But that Balor opened his eye when the cow screamed, and that immediately the cow and her calf were turned into stone and formed what are now known as the Rockabill Islands. And curiously enough, there are 2 islands. There's a smaller one to the north and a larger one to the south, the smaller one representing the calf and the larger one the cow. Almost exactly the same story, but told in different parts of the country. Balor stealing the Glas Gaibhlinn.